Well, I'm back in the City of Angels. Been here a few days catching up from the tour. All's going good. So, as promised, I thought I would sit back and tell you some of the stories from my previous adventures out there on the road. And one that really struck home when I was in London on the break before the Download Festival. We were staying at our hotel of choice in Shepherd's Bush called the K West. And it happened on that weekend, because Download was coming, that it was basically roadie central. I mean, the entire crew for Slipknot were in the hotel, Motorhead's crew, Biffy Clyro, several other bands. And I ran into an old friend of mine whose name is Mole. He was the drum tech on a tour I did with the band Asia back, 6 or 7, maybe even longer years ago. And it was an extensive European tour. We had been out for a couple of months. And at one point we had played in the Eastern Bloc area. And we had to go travel to Stockholm to do the next show in Sweden. And we were in Riga in Latvia and had to take a ferry from Latvia over to Stockholm, which takes about 22 odd hours, something like that. So it's quite a big boat, and the bus actually goes in the hold, and we all get rooms, and there are several restaurants and bars and things like that. And when I booked passage for the band and crew, the fellow who was serving me over the telephone, selling me the tickets, told me we were really lucky because the Miss Latvia portion of the Miss Universe contest was going to take place on board the ship while we were traveling. Kind of a nice bonus halfway through the tour. So we get on the boat and I get the whole band situated, but before that we had to go through security to get onto the boat. And Cody Allenson, who's been a guy who I've been working with for many, many years, one of the best guitar techs in the business. He currently takes care of Damon, Ricky, and Marco all at the same time on the Black Star Riders and Thin Lizzy shows. Give you an idea. This guy knows what he's doing. And Cody and I were going through security together, and standard kind of metal detector unit, and you leave your bag, go through the metal detector, and go on through. After we'd gone through, Cody kind of noticed after the fact that he'd had his Letterman tool strapped to his waist the whole process. So it kind of threw the metal detector thing into doubt, let's put it that way. We're wondering exactly what the point of that was when a big metal tool could go through and not set off any alarms. In any case, I got everybody situated in their rooms, and then everybody decided to meet at one of the bars to go have a drink and, maybe find out what's going on with this Miss Universe thing. We ended up in one of the bars where they were having the introductory walk-through by all the girls. They basically walked up and down a makeshift gangway that they had made, and everybody in the crew kind of picked their favorite girl to cheer for, and when she did her thing, they would, whoop and holler and all that sort of thing. Just to our left, there was a little barrier wall that went up to about a little above my waist, but there was these two fellows standing on the other side of the wall, both big weightlifter kind of guys. Imagine one of them, there was two, a dark-haired one and a blonde guy. The blonde guy could have been Dolph Lundgren's twin, to give you an idea of what we're talking about here. Same kind of short haircut, the shocking blonde hair. Anyway, at one particular point, this attractive young blonde lady came walking down the gangway, and this particular lady was one that John Payne, the singer from Asia at the time, had championed, and he was whooping and hollering at her. And the dark-haired one of the two fellows who were standing just on the other side of the wall kind of looked at him and said, "Would you please just be quiet?" He didn't say it quite as nice as that. And John, who's one of the most nicest guys that you ever meet, he said, "Calm down, man, we're all here just having a great time. Come on, let us buy you a drink." And he just kind of looks at John and goes, Cody and I both immediately thought about that quote, metal detector, unquote, that we went through earlier, and thought, this could be serious, who knows what this guy's going to do. So we stood up in force. Sorry about the helicopter, what can I do? Call them ghetto birds here, but in any case. So we stood up in force to make it clear that if this guy was going to hassle John, he wasn't going to hassle just John, he was going to have all of us. And suddenly him and the blonde-haired Dolph Lundgren twin decided they were having a conversation, but they were speaking in what I assume was Russian. And I thought to myself, okay, this is going to get serious. Obviously now we're going to have both of these guys into the mix here, and this is not going to be fun. But then suddenly their argument got a little heated, and the dark-haired guy suddenly took a swing at the blonde guy. He missed. The blonde guy just literally stepped out of the way, and he swung back and hit the guy with such force that he sent him literally through the air, through a doorway, bust the door down, and the guy collapsed in a mass on the ground. And we all stood with amazement and just sat there and looked at him, and we just went, wow! And the guy looked at us and said, enjoy the show. And we went, what? That's crazy. And John immediately said, come on, let us buy you a drink. He was, maybe later, But in any case, paramedics came, security came, the security people took the blonde guy off, the paramedics took the other guy out in a stretcher. He was out cold. And we spent the rest of the evening recounting the events of that few moments, as well as wandering around finding out what all the girls in the contest were doing, but as you can imagine. Anyway, that made for the rest of the evening. The following morning, we were approaching Stockholm port, and we were going along the Swedish coast. And in the morning on this boat, all of the bars turn into basically cafes and coffee shops and things like that. So we were all gathering there slowly but surely as everybody got their collective fecal matter assembled, as it were. And I was sitting in the forward one when one of the security guards came up to me and asked me if I was part of the party that was involved in the events of the previous evening. And I indicated that I was, and he said, okay, well, Stockholm police are coming on board the ship when we get into Stockholm, and they would like to get statements from you and anybody who was in your party with you in the bar that evening. I said, we all really appreciated the blonde guy standing up for us, so we wanted to make sure he didn't get screwed or shortchanged on this sort of thing. So we were determined to tell what actually happened. In short order, after landing, the Stockholm police came on board. Now, when they say Stockholm police, this was the serious paramilitary arm of the Stockholm police. There was a chief and 4 officers who were all in fatigues and had automatic weapons and berets and looked more like a military operation than it did a police operation. But they led him into, they came into the cafe where I was, and the blonde fellow came in. Now he was wearing this beautiful Armani suit, very sharp looking man. And there was a comedy going on. I watched 2 of the police officers try to force this man's arms together close enough so that they could handcuff him, and he was not having any of it. And he just stood there, stony-faced, wouldn't move his arms, and he was so strong. They were struggling like 2 children to push this together. They finally just gave up. So the chief of the police sits me down, interviews me first. Basically, what happened. So I tell him, recount the story. It's very similar to what I just did for you. And he said, all right, let me talk to him next. He points to John Payne, the singer from Asia. So John goes over and tells his version of the story, which is essentially what I told him. At the end of John's statement, the chief asks me over again. He goes, are all of you traveling together? He indicates the group of about 11 people that are with us. And I said, yeah. He goes, why are the 11 of you traveling from Riga to Stockholm together? That's weird. I said, no, it's a band and the crew, and we play in Stockholm this evening. And he goes, well, what band is it? And I said, they're called Asia. Well, the cop's eyes got about as big as saucers, just bulging of his head, and he says, is Jeff Downs still in the band? And I kind of pointed over there, and I said, that's Jeff sitting right over there. So I brought Jeff over and introduced him, and he was like, oh, Mr. Downs, I've been such a fan of yours for many years. I listened to you in the Buggles and in Yes, and of course in Asia. And so once the fan moment was over, he interviewed a few more of us, and everybody was giving the same story, so he didn't see the point in interviewing all 11 of us. But John and I were discussing things as the others were being interviewed, and he said, well, if this guy's such a fan, let's put him on the guest list for Stockholm. So as we were leaving, I went to the fellow and said, look, would you like to come to the show tonight? He said, well, that would be really wonderful. He said, can I bring 3 of my cop friends? And I went, sure, I'll put you on the guest list. And we'd love to see you afterwards, so meet me at the merchandise stand after the show, and I'll take you backstage and you can chat with the guys. So that was all cool. So we all went to our rooms to go get our bags, and it was at this point that we realized that the entire population of the ship had been made to wait while we were being interviewed by these police officers. They wanted to make sure that nobody left the ship before they had gotten statements from everybody. So they were all kind of growling at us as we walked down the hall, but what are you going to do, you know? So we got our bags and we disembarked in Stockholm and went to the venue and set up the show and everything. And when it came to be showtime, I did as I normally do, which is lead the band to stage. And after they're on stage, I make a point of going out into the crowd, making sure there's a minimal amount of illegal recording going on. And while I'm doing that, I run into the police officer and his 4 friends and, say, oh, great to see you and glad you made it, and show them where the merch stand is. And I said, meet me here after the show and I'll take you back. So after the show, I met them and I brought them back and, offered them the beverages or whatever they wanted to drink. And basically we asked, what happened after we left? And he said, well, after you left, they said the first thing that we found out was that the dark-haired fellow had broken his neck from that punch. That punch was severe enough that his neck was broken. He wasn't dead, but, he was in the hospital and would be for some time. He was also a member, they weren't sure if it was current or past, but a member of the Latvian mafia. The blonde-haired guy happened to be ex-KGB, who was just traveling on vacation, and the blonde girl that John Payne had been cheering for was his wife. And so he was very motivated to defend those who were cheering for his wife in the contest. And they indicated to us that after we left, they were going to arrest the blonde-haired fellow and take him, for questioning. At that moment, a Latvian diplomat charged into the scene and said, you have no jurisdiction here. This happened in international waters. This boat is Latvian registry. Sweden has nothing to do with this. If you do not get off this boat right now, there is going to be an international incident between Sweden and Latvia. And the cop said, hey, that's cool with us. No problem. Easier. No paperwork for us. And they left. And that's the last he knew of what happened to the blonde guy. But that's how us, that being the band and crew of Asia, almost caused an international incident between Latvia and Sweden. Don't you love being on the road?